All right, what's up, everybody? I just wanted to talk about my matches 11 through 15. Actually, I got my matches 16 through 20 completed recently as well, so I'm going to do another video for those here coming up shortly, and then look at making the first changes to the deck. But wanted to kind of go over these matches 11 through 15 in a little bit of detail, just to talk about here. So 11 through 15 played against. Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst Burn, Blue Steel, another Purple Steel Mirror, and then Amber Steel aggro deck. So match 11 against Ruby Sapphire. This did not feel close at all. It was an 0-2 loss for me, unfortunately. This whole session was 3-2. I've only had 3-2 sessions so far, so this is the third straight one. But this was a total blowout. Just a couple of quick things to note. I favored Broom over like Chernobog's just so I could quest it into Tipo and not have Tipo be able to get extra value by taking out the Chernobog followers or forcing me to trade it for the card before getting as much lore out of it as possible. But I was just straight up kind of not fast enough. Little Tink does show its weakness here, being susceptible to both Sisu's. But I did have some games where it actually, cruised for a decent amount of lore. So probably just be really careful with that. I'm going to see my notes here if I have anything else that was super important. They had some good draws. I mean, they lots of ramp. Hiram on 3 got to double draw with Hiram in terms of initial draw 2 and then quest 2 to draw 2. And then I had a really bad draw on game 2. I had to mold 6 just to look for 1s and 2 drops to try to aggro them out as best as possible. Little Tink was good. I ended up with double Smees. So I had as fast of a draw as possible, but it just straight up was not enough. Pete wasn't that helpful either. Pirate's Life was brutal. One of those games, I think I got to 17, and then them taking me down to 15 was enough to call it a day, essentially. So rough match. Match 12 was against Ruby Amethyst Burn. I won 2-1, but very, very close. But a bunch of questions kind of arose with this matchup, which is when do you apply pressure and try to race back? Typically, I'm trying to was just trying to eliminate as much lore gain as possible from them every step of the way. So I was taking out Diablo on the first chance possible. And even though it gave him the card, at least was not letting the Diablo, cruise for, 2, 3, 4 lore. So just trying to stop that as much as possible. Little Tinkerbell was awesome in terms of racing back with Genie. Getting both of those down and just being able to quest for 4 is extremely good. I had to watch getting baited with Calhoun. Again, in trying to stop lore, I used Calhoun to take something out, and then Super Goof came back and hit it. And even though it didn't kill it, it still was boom. There's 2 lore for them. So just got to be careful with playing around Super Goof. Not something I'm terrifically used to yet. Sorry about that. But yeah, tough game. I know. Let me see here. Game 3, I tried to play around Super Goof again after having that first experience with it, where I played around it. They inked Super Goof, and I was basically just okay. They inked it. I'm not going to play around a second Super Goof, and then they had a second Super Goof, but I was still able to get that one. They might have misplayed a little bit, but it was just a tight match overall. Match 13 was against Blue Steel. This was a 2-0 win. This didn't feel that close at all. This wasn't too hard. I was really happy when every time they dropped Quill. Every time they dropped Quill and that was their turn 3, and played another ink. I was just great, my turn again, and then keep questing, keep adding things to the board. I'm not really scared of Grab Your Swords that much, in this deck. There's enough 3 toughness things, and Calhoun and both resist 1. Big Tink doesn't really do much work against us. I'm sure it could if they shifted it, but just getting it down early with Quill didn't do that whole much against us, especially when I had a pretty big evasive board. I didn't even care when they dropped Cogsworth really that much because again, a lot of I was in the air, for the most part with the Tinks and the Genies and Elsa's. I was not sure when to play Pete in this matchup. Again, I wasn't sure what to fight against. I know they have Grab Your Swords and a handful of other removal, but I had it in times and I was okay, well, do I play it just because? And it just didn't feel that great again. So this deck was playing the 6-drop Robin Hood that gets evasive on its turn, so that was an interesting one. I ended up in one game having to bait it with 1 Genie in order to use and let it kill it or banish it just to hit it back with an Elsa and get rid of it, and then was able to add more evasive to the board. I think I went Genie, and then they had a Robin, and I played another Genie, quested with 1, let them get that one, and then the next turn played an Elsa to take out the Robin Hood, and then keep my other Genie going. So So yeah, just interesting match, but that wasn't too bad really. Match 14 was against Purple Steel, the mirror match. That was a 2-0 win. I didn't understand a whole lot of some of their choices when it came to the plays. I had a pretty medium start in the first game with two little tinks, but like not a whole lot in the beginning. I fell behind in cards pretty bad, but yeah, again, I didn't understand some of the plays that they made, and I was able to get it out or eke it out. Like the whole racing math is just always interesting. Of like, how can I get to 20 if they don't stop me doing X Y Z with my evasives? So. And then they conceded a pretty quick game 2 out of frustration for what it looked like. So I wasn't dominating by any means, but I was playing the game, and it wasn't going to be close, I guess. I don't know. So tough one, but that was a 2-0 win. And then match 15 was one that I learned a lot from. Played against the Amber Steel aggro deck, so not Wheel, but Doc. This deck is crazy. I played against it a couple of times now, and it's brutal. I got absolutely rolled in the first game. Oh, then forgive me. I think this was a 2-0 loss for me too. The first game I didn't have a 1-drop, but I had Calhoun, Little Tink. I had a Zeus for the first Tiana they played, but they went over the course of their turns. Cindy, Smee, Tiana, Pluto. They sang 2 strengths, a Storm, followed it with a Lawrence, a Daisy, a Doc, another Tiana, and then had another Pluto. It was just gas on gas, and as much of a nut draw as I can imagine they get. Lots of removal that they were singing for free, and then lots of good characters, and it was just crazy. I couldn't do a thing. It was rough. Game 2, they had not that crazy of a draw, but it was still tough draw for sure. They had Chen Po in their list as well, which was another just brutal bodyguard that I had a really difficult time dealing with. I can't remember if I didn't have Zeus's or what, but I'm only running 3 right now on the list, and I wonder if this is just a good case study of you should be running 4 maybe. So we'll see about that, but that's very impressive deck. That deck, I want to play that deck after seeing it. Being able to drop that much gas. The Tiana plus a bodyguard combo is crazy because if they have that exerted and they have a Pluto down, you have to somehow take care of Pluto while either paying the ink to have your damage actually affect it via Tiana, or you have to remove the Tiana, then still go through the Pluto. It's insane. So. That's a really interesting combo, but that deck looked really, really strong. So just some kind of takeaways here. Again, it's been interesting to kind of go through these first matches. When I do the episode of my matches 16 through 20, I'll keep that brief, but then I'm going to do another episode where it's just okay, 20 matches in, here's all the takeaways. 20 matches in, here's what I'm thinking for changes to the deck, and then we'll make a couple small changes before we go to matches 20 through 40 essentially. But some takeaways, this version of the deck doesn't feel great into Ruby Sapphire right now. I didn't play it a tremendous amount. I've played it twice now. One of the games is included in my matches 16 through 20, which we'll talk about in another episode. But this deck does not feel fast enough into that deck right now. And if you're not fast enough, Pete, in order to avoid Be Prepared, doesn't seem like it does a whole lot, especially when they still have Big Sisu, which is rough on the little tinks, obviously, which is just another weakness of playing this style of Purple Steel with the tinks, is that you're going to be weaker into Ruby Sapphire, it seems. Lawrence would be, obviously from what I've, read about, is a better card into that matchup, but we'll just have to take it one step at a time. Pirate's Life is crazy. I love that card. That's another card that makes me want to I want to play that card. Just the 2 Lord Drain is so good in how fast of a meta it is right now, it seems, and being able to make someone take a step back totally changes the momentum of things when you're racing. So especially when you're racing all these Genie Wars and all these purple decks everywhere. But yeah, and against that Ruby Sapphire deck, I had the fastest version of a draw that my deck could do, and it still wasn't really close at all. When it comes to racing, I feel like I need to plan 2 to 3 turns in advance, which I'm doing, but that's just something I've noticed I've had to do playing this deck, is that I have to plan out okay, if I'm not, if I don't want to challenge here, I'm going to race and just quest out. And then if they challenge back, then I'm going to do this. But if they don't and they just challenge or quest me back, then the next time I'll quest, I'll be at this. And just there's a lot of back and forth math, thinking 2-3 turns ahead while also having an awareness of what could happen on their turn to knock you back, and then what you have for your next turn. And if they don't have something, then what that means for you in terms of stacking onto the next turn. So just turn stacking is kind of how I've been describing it, of I'm going to do this so that I can do this other thing next turn. If they do this, then I'll do that. And it's risk mitigation combined with future planning, while also just like gambling. It's like you got to roll the dice and be like, okay, I'm going to hope they don't have this out so that I'm going to win in 2 turns if they don't have it. And so it's tough. You got to take your beats where they happen. The blue steel match felt super easy. I don't know if there's much of a takeaway there, but I feel like they should have good tools coming to battle me, but that game didn't feel great. So like again, this is maybe why Ruby Sapphire has dropped to Quill too. Is like me, I loved them playing Quill. I was like, great, my turn. Drop cards out of your hand, and no big deal at all. So I don't know, like I've never liked Quill. Coming from a Magic background, it's like discarding cards just always feels terrible, even if it is ramp. So I can see it paired with Wheel, of course, in Classic Blue Steel, but yeah, I don't know about that. But that was an interesting matchup. I probably need to play it more. Especially, I'd like to play like the Ward, Pluto versions that are out there, and see how it goes from there. But Amber Steel continues to be a problem. That deck is just tough for this match. I feel like I should have the removal to deal with it, with the Twin Fires. But 2 Twin Fires in a deck of 60 cards, it's like if I just don't get it, I don't really have a whole heck of a lot else. And my characters, aren't singing removal all the time, and my characters are fine, but like it's not hard for them to get 4 on the board, and then Storm's taking out Genie. They still have Zeus. The best thing I've been able to try to do is get my hand empty, so then it makes their wheels not as good. So, but that's just a challenging matchup. So it's a tough one. Again, real quick, this is kind of what the deck looks like right now. 10 1-drops, 10 2-drops, 4 which are snakes, so not really traditional 2-drops. Foxes, crabs on the Tink package, 2 Peats, 2 crabs, 4 and 4 in the Genie Merlin, of course. I got the 1 token rabbit here just to kind of fill things out in an extra card draw, which has been good. Bella has not been great, but again, I blame myself. I don't know if I know how to play that card super well yet. From what I can see, it goes way better with Lawrence, because Lawrence being able to challenge into something and then move that damage is great. I feel like I don't have a great way to set it up all the time in here, and even when I have like Elsa that has like a couple damage on it from challenging to Genie, sometimes I don't feel like that 2 damage going anywhere. It ends up being that meaningful. So I think it's a combination of I just need to learn how to set this card up better. But I'm not there yet. Big Tink is fine, but it's been underwhelming. There's been times where I don't even want to shift it because I'd rather have the evasive 2-quester sometimes. And then, if I were to shift it down and get a body or 2, get some value out of it, they'll challenge into it and then it's gone. And then it's like, I feel like I don't have a good board after it. So it seems more of like a liability than a huge advantage right now. So I don't know how I'm feeling about like Little Tink feel great about, like having the 3 ink 2-quester evasive feels great. But I don't know if Big Tink is really making it worth it or not. It could be better as a Lawrence, so then I can make Bell better. I don't know. The Smash Strength sometimes feels great being able to sing it, but I don't always have a big board, so it seems underwhelming at times. Zeus is always good and reliable. This could probably go to 4, honestly. Friends almost always feels great. It's like I find myself wanting to keep it in my opening hand, even though I know that's not necessarily the best line from, again, from things that I read about and see. But I feel like when I have friends and get to fill up my hand, I'm winning games. Smash is just kind of blah. 3 doesn't feel like a lot anymore. Again, this is making a case for another Zeus instead. Twin Fires are sometimes great. Most of the times not, actually. Like when this is in my hand and I can't use it profitably, it feels horrible. So it's really it's a frustrating card. And it's not good into every match. Like it doesn't feel that great into Purple Steel sometimes. It certainly doesn't feel good into Ruby Sapphire. It has felt good into Amber Steel when I've gotten it and when I've been able to get it off, but still can be rough. So I don't know, high rolly kind of card, but that's kind of it for matches 11 through 15. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support so far. Looking forward to the first kind of recap of the 20 matches altogether. Then looking at making the first changes. So hope everyone's enjoying watching the CCS tournament today. There's a lot of cool stuff that has happened this last week with competitive Lorcana, and I look forward to covering more next week. So thank you all, and I will talk to you soon.